Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Chrissy B Show. Now, one of the things we'll be covering on today's program are intrusive thoughts. Now, these are unwanted thoughts or images that you find distressing and or disturbing. These unwanted thoughts are also known as obsessions and can result in compulsions, which are the things you do to help you cope with the unwanted thoughts. Now, I myself used to have intrusive thoughts that led to compulsions, which I'll be telling you about later, and also how I recovered. But to illustrate just how distressing these thoughts can be, we have a video courtesy of the Mental Health channel of mothers who decided to open up about the thoughts that were plaguing them. Now, one mother openly talks about the thoughts of leaving one of her children at a petrol station and driving off, and throwing her baby in the swimming pool and walking away. Now, the aim of sharing these experiences with you is to show you that you are not alone if you are facing this problem, that you're not evil, and that there is help for you. Also on today's show, our psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, will be speaking about how to deal with issues that arise when we have aging parents. Nutritionist Severine Menem talks about the effects of sugar and gives us some healthy alternatives. We also visit the Caldesi Cookery School, where owners Giancarlo and Katie Caldesi tell us about their restaurants and also show us how to make a low-carb and gluten-free pizza. We have our workout of the week with Natalia Katowska and a healthy recipe straight from Hannah Rich's kitchen for stuffed pumpkins. And finally, we see how birds of prey can be therapeutic. So let's get started with this video courtesy of the Mental Health channel of mothers who decided to open up about the thoughts that were plaguing them.
If this is depression, then why do I not feel sad all the time? There's still things that make me happy, but then I have these panic attacks where my heart starts racing and it's palpitating and I'm jittery and I feel trapped and claustrophobic and I can't get away. And I feel like I'm losing my mind. And all I want to do is leave my older one, just drop him off at the gas station and drive away. And pick up the baby and throw him in the pool and just be done with it, walk away.
Hard feelings to have.
Those are the scariest feelings ever. When those feelings started coming, that's when I realized, oh crap, this is not okay.
Right.
I'm not okay.
And there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of other people will hear you say something like that and think, oh my gosh, she's gonna go and, harm herself or harm her children.
And you don't want to tell your spouse because then they'll think you're crazy, and you don't want to say that out loud to anybody else.
But that's exactly what we're trying to do, is get women to be able to be open and honest and talk about their feelings and their experiences so that they can reach out and get help. The role of a support group is everything. I think of all the interventions and all my years of doing this work, the support group has been most beneficial for women because it helps de-escalate that feeling of I'm alone. Knowing that every week you have a safe place to come and share feelings that not a lot of women are comfortable talking about. It's difficult emotion.
I remember with my first son just holding him and saying, this was not how it was supposed to go.
No.
And nobody told me that I would feel that way.
Right.
Nobody had said anything. The whole time we were in the hospital, I had a quiet, sleeping baby. I had nurses that helped me. My husband and my mother and my mother-in-law all took turns taking care of me. And then suddenly I was home alone. My husband went back to work. I had a crying baby. And I remember holding him and looking at him and saying, I just said, I was like, why did we decide to do this? It just screams at me and it hurts because I knew I loved him, but I didn't understand where that was coming from. And I knew that postpartum depression was a risk that people had, but I'd never been depressed. I didn't think I had an issue. I didn't think I had any reason to feel any different to my baby that everybody else does. I thought I was gonna put him in a stroller and walk him down the street and wear my pretty little clothes and do my little baby thing for a while, and it wasn't that way.
The myth a lot of times is this is gonna be the happiest time in your life, that you're gonna automatically attach and bond to your baby, that as soon as that baby comes out, there's gonna be this instant loving feeling, and sometimes that takes time to develop.
It started off with really bad insomnia. And I was reading about Ambien, and I got to the point that said, if you take too much, it could be fatal. And that popped. It just like sucked into my brain. And it was just one word, suicide.
It was so clear that it was not a rational thought. And I think that that's what scared me so much.
I'd been trying to find a psychiatrist. I'd been trying to get more help, and it wasn't available. And I didn't know what to do. So I decided to check myself into a mental hospital, and it was Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day. It was my very, very first Mother's Day. And I was checking out of motherhood.
Most people refer to this as postpartum depression, but actually it's not always postpartum depression. We see a range of different mental health symptoms, including anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, manifesting within the postpartum period. So it's much more than just depression.
It was pretty bleak, feeling like I didn't want to be here, or feeling like my husband and my baby would be better off without me around. It took totally hitting, rock bottom. And I think we were both so completely overwhelmed that it's hard to pull somebody else up when you're drowning too. It's hard to rescue somebody else. Not just only depression and feeling like you're gonna cry constantly, to also very agitated and angry, and having the depression manifests itself in that way, which I didn't even really realize depression could manifest itself in anger and irritation and just always being on edge. Yes. And I get these afternoon panic attacks, and I feel like I'm just gonna implode or explode. It's just like it's been too much.
Or the thought of getting in your car and just driving. Yes. That was always my escape.
Yeah, I leave the kids.
Leave the kids.
I'm out of here.
I'm done.
While I think our media does a great job trying to highlight stories around pregnancy and postpartum mood disorders, very often it's a tragedy, which isn't always the case. They don't highlight the women who go through postpartum and get well.
Eventually, I started thinking that it was hopeless, that this was an awful situation and I didn't want to be in it anymore. Recognizing that I was approaching a severe level of postpartum depression. So I started looking into some counseling services and what was available, and then slowly adding psychiatry and some medications and some support groups and some self-care like massages and a pedicure and a day out without the children. Had I not done that, I don't think I would be in this position. I could have fought harder earlier on to keep it from happening, but couldn't because I felt so guilty that I didn't want to take care of my child. That stigma was so shameful and horrifying.
The role of stigma is unfortunately one of the biggest barriers to treatment. Women won't reach out and families won't reach out, so the stigma builds, which then prohibits people from saying, oh, well, maybe I need help and maybe help is available because you're not alone.
As much as I love my friends, they didn't get it. But the support groups, they get it.
I think having the other women around you to help you ride that roller coaster.
You can just be real. It's like the one place in your life you can cut out the pretense and everything else, but to have that group every week to know that we're all experiencing something maybe a little bit differently, but we can be open and honest, that's pretty special.
The symptoms are all so different, but we all get that you might be feeling really anxious one day, you might be having some obsessive thoughts, you might be sleep deprived, and you might be overrun with just emotion of trying to balance life and work, and we all get it. We all understand that struggle.
Talking out loud with other mothers has been the most gratifying thing out of all of it.
Please reach out for help. That is the number one thing that most people do, is they suffer in silence.
This is the number one complication of childbirth. Number one. But there are ways that you can help it. There's ways you can prevent it. There's ways you can treat it, and it's not forever.
Thank you very much to the Mental Health channel for that video. And if you'd like to know more about them, do head over to our website, chrissybshow.tv, and click on our contributors section. So after the break, our psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, will be speaking about how to deal with issues that arise when we have aging parents. And nutritionist Severin Menem talks about the effects of sugar and some healthy alternatives.
I don't want people to think they have to learn to live with depression. I know there's a permanent cure. And I know sometimes many people hear that, you can manage depression or learn to live with it. And that's something that I totally disagree with, because depression is such a horrible thing to experience and to live with on a day-to-day basis, because I've been there and I know. But I also know that there is a solution, a permanent solution.
Depression has always been something, people say it's incurable. Once you get depressed, you'll never be free of it. But it's not true. You don't have to manage it. You can get rid of it, and that's why it's payback time.
Obviously, I'm taking a couple of these books today, 2 signed copies, in order to give it to some relatives of mine.
I know that this book will progress. Yeah, it's about time. It's about time. It steals too much time from people's lives. Yeah, it's about time.
Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's time to go to Psychology Matters with Dr. Audrey Tang, and she'll actually be speaking about how to deal with issues that arise when we have aging parents.
Hi, I'm Dr. Audrey Tang from the Chrissy B Show, and in today's Psychology Matters, I'm looking at how to support aging parents. The thing about our parents getting older is that we may not always realise it. It's quite a gradual process, and because we probably won't see them as often, or certainly not maybe every day, we may not realise until we go to visit and suddenly they're a little bit more forgetful, they might be a bit slower, maybe they're asking us the same questions over and over, maybe they're squinting at something, maybe they're finding it difficult to hear. Or perhaps you start noticing the little telltale symptoms of other disorders. This can be quite a scary thing to see, and also it might be difficult for us to manage purely because we are also going through things in our own lifetimes. The difficulty with aging is that everyone is aging at the same time. Whilst you yourself may be starting a family, or perhaps your children are growing up and going through their life changes, so too are our parents. And in order to negotiate and navigate what we're doing in our own lives and support parents, it's all about finding a new balance. And that new balance is quite difficult to strike, often because our parents too wish to retain dignity, to some extent wish to retain independence, and perhaps don't want to be dependent on their own children. A lot of negotiation is often in order, and it can start with very practical things. It might be being aware of things like where your parents have financial commitments, where your parents are working for in terms of their housing, and all of the practical sides of things that we don't often think about. We think about them for ourselves, but not necessarily for other people. So it may be wise, if you are worried about parents getting a little bit older, perhaps even having to consider things like power of attorney, to be doing this and having that conversation whilst everyone is able to have the conversation in the appropriate frame of mind. There are also practical ways we can support parents. And unfortunately, as much as we don't like looking at our parents getting older because it can be quite frightening, it's worth remembering if a parent is losing their sight, websites such as the Royal Institute for the Blind, they can be really helpful. For example, my dad is losing his eyesight, and what he has is a little alarm which fits onto the side of a cup, and it goes off as soon as the liquid touches it, which means he doesn't spill anything when he's filling up a kettle, or he doesn't burn his hand or anything like that. So these are little practical things. Another thing which I've seen for somebody who is suffering with Parkinson's is a two-handed mug, which means that you've actually got a lot more sturdiness if you're trying to drink. These practical things are very subtle, and they allow your parents to remain independent. It may be you have to support them in looking at changing their bathroom around so they can actually step into the shower, perhaps even moving their bedroom from upstairs to downstairs. These things help them retain independence and help them retain their pride, because a lot of the time parents don't want to start feeling as if they can no longer cope. Other things we can do is continue to go out, continue to enjoy things together as a family. Because again, what parents don't want to do is miss out on your children growing up. They don't want to miss out on all the exciting things that are going on. And what also research has found is that the grandchildren often are really connected with the grandparents, and they are the people who teach them to use things like smartphones. On the topic of smartphones, there are also phones you can get specifically for parents getting older, and they have panic buttons as well. And this panic button will scroll through numbers as soon as it's pressed, include it, so you reprogram it with your own number. These things may not be enough to give you that peace of mind that you're after, but at least they can help. And it's a start, especially with retaining the independence for those people who have that wish to remain dignified. The whole thing about getting older is that it is something that happens to all of us. But with a little bit of effort and a little bit of work, it can be something where we can just find a new balance and a new way to keep living life to the full.
Thank you very much to Audrey there. So now it's time to go to nutritionist Severine Menem talking about the effects of sugar and also some healthy alternatives.
Hi, I'm Severine Menem. I'm a nutritionist, and today I'm going to discuss sugar. So eating too much sugar or eating sugar too often can have serious side effects on our body. It's a bit like alcohol, actually. The effects range from the sugar roller coaster, which is the highs and lows that triggers some drain of energy, to putting on weight, to getting diabetes, it can go also to affect our heart conditions. It can trigger fatty liver disease, which is usually only triggered by alcohol, but too much sugar can trigger that. We also know that sugar feeds cancer cells. So that's how serious having too much sugar or too often can do. Now, there are official organizations that have established some recommendation when it comes to sugar. In 2015, the World Health Organization, WHO, established that it would be good for adults to reduce their calorie intake of sugar, or free sugar as they call it, to reduce from 10% to 5%. And that would be about between 20 to 25 grams of sugar, like pure sugar. The NHS, on the other hand, is a bit more optimistic and kind of recommends, if we can recommend having sugar, about 30 grams of sugar per day. And that's not much, because if we take like the Magnum, the ice cream, the classic one, it's already 27 grams of sugar. So that's how easy it is to go over the daily recommendation. Now, there are different types of sugar. There are the natural sugar, there are the artificial sugar, there are the sweeteners, and there are some really savvy choices that you can do. I would say the first question that you need to ask yourself is, why do you want to add sugar? If it's to add sugar in your coffee or your tea, is it something that you really need, or can you do a swap? Either to go cold turkey, removing any sweetener, or perhaps adding a pinch of cinnamon that adds some sweetness without the sugar. Next, for the cakes and bakes and all the desserts. You don't necessarily need to add sugar as such. You can simply add fruits. Fruits are very sweet, whether they are fresh fruits or whether they are dried fruits. Always be careful with dried fruits because they are concentrated in sugar. But it is natural, and also they are nutritious and they have fibers. That's why I would say if you need to sweeten something, always start with fruits. But also vegetables, because carrots, beetroots, they're a really good example of vegetables that are really high in sugar and very sweet. But if you would rather use some natural sweeteners, you've got options such as honey, maple syrup, agave, and these natural sugars don't have the fibers, but they also have the nutritional benefits, you know, the added vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and so on. So that would be a good idea. Now, let's discuss artificial sweeteners. I really understand why the food industry started with artificial sweeteners. It has some positives. Usually it's lower in calorie and it doesn't affect blood sugar levels. So for people suffering from diabetes, it looks like a win-win. On the other hand, it does have some serious side effects, knowing that it still triggers all the sugar cravings. It does affect the gut health. By that I mean that it does affect the good bacteria, the balance between good and bad bacteria. And last but not least, some people would suffer from stomach upset. Of course, you know, some would say, okay, sweets with xylitol are pretty good because they go against dental disease. But who really needs sweets anyway? So, as we've seen, we've got plenty of options about what to use as better alternatives to sugar. But the real question is, can I just not reduce my consumption of sugar? If you do dessert or sweets, you know, it's very likely that if you cut the proportion by 20 to 30%, it will still be sweet enough and your body will thank you in the long term.
Thank you very much to Severine there. So after the break, we visit the Caldesi Cookery School, where owners Giancarlo and Katie Caldesi tell us about their restaurants and also show us how to make a low-carb and gluten-free pizza. And we have our workout of the week with Natalia Katowska. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, host of the UK's only TV programme dedicated to mental health and well-being, The Chrissy B Show, which airs on MyTV Sky 191 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Follow our social media on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter at Chrissy B Show and our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. For more information, visit chrissybshow.tv. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's time to visit the Caldesi Cookery School, where owners Giancarlo and Katie Caldesi tell us about their restaurants and also show us how to make a low-carb and gluten-free pizza.
My name's Katie Caldesi.
My name is Giancarlo Caldesi.
And we have two Italian restaurants, one in London, Caldesi in Marylebone, and one in Bray in Berkshire called Caldesi in Campagna.
The cooking that we're doing actually is like my mother used to make. It's very hearty, very rustic, and it's real Italian cooking, and we're very proud of what we do.
The philosophy is like his mother's cooking, and it's family recipes that have been handed down from generation to generation, and then we bring them to London.
It's very important actually to really create a kind of food that is really regional and is really authentic from Italy. I've been here 44 years, and in all these years I managed to, especially later with Katie, we managed to really assemble a real true Italian food, and it's important to create this kind of philosophy of food that people like, and we can recreate Italy back into England.
And we've been travelling all over Italy, and we've written 9 books about Italian cooking now, from regions like Sicily to Rome, Venice, Amalfi and Tuscany. So we've got a huge bank of recipes to follow in our restaurant.
What's really been interesting actually all the years I've been in Marylebone, that when people come to the cafe in Marylebone, they always say it's a piece of Italy. It's so interesting, so nice to see, and so very, very heartwarming to feel the people are experiencing a little bit of Italy in London. And that's really, for me, it's volume, speaks volume. It's amazing, to be honest.
So about 15 years ago, we were asked to show someone how to make pasta, which we did on a Sunday when our restaurant was closed. And then more and more people came to us and said, can you show me how to make pasta? Can you show me how to make focaccia? And so we started teaching people at weekends. And then eventually we opened a cookery school just devoted to Italian food and teaching people how to cook everything to do with Italian cooking. And we've been going 14 years. So today we're here to show you one of our favourite recipes from our latest cookbook, and come into the kitchen and we'll show you. This is our latest cookbook, the Diabetes Weight Loss Cookbook, and it's just out now, and we're going to show you a recipe, a classic Italian recipe that we've taken. It's going to be a pizza, delicious pizza, but we're going to make it in a low-carb way, and Giancarlo will tell you why.
Well, I was diabetic, and this is a perfect pizza for me because it's low in carbs and also hasn't got any gluten because I'm also gluten intolerant, and all of that is amazing fun to make. Also, I can eat the pizza, it's very tasty, and really, what else can you ask? You eat the pizza, you have a fun to make it, and you feel absolutely good. Hey, that's a winner. It's an amazing recipe to make.
The first part of the book is a little bit about the science, but really clearly explained why it matters how many carbohydrates you eat to prevent diabetes or to reverse diabetes type 2. And after that, we've got over 100 recipes, which are all from around the world, things that we've collected on our travels, and we've made them all low carb. And it's really the way our family eats now. I've kept a stone of weight off, Giancarlo's kept his 3.5 stone off, and our boys love this way of eating too. It gives you loads of energy. It's just a really good way to eat.
It's an amazing sort of change of life. It's a life-changing sort of situation where you can get accustomed to this sort of eating. And quite frankly, I never felt so better in my entire life. I mean, I'm wide awake, more energy, and the whole thing it's incredible, really. And by losing so much weight and feeling so good about myself, I think what a step towards mankind, really.
So now let's start the recipe.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to peel a courgette and grate the courgette while Giancarlo does the rest.
Yes, I've got 150 grams of ground almond, which I put in. Also, I have a pinch of salt, which has to go in. And we also need some Parmigiano, which is here, and I forgot about it. So we got 25 grams of Parmesan, just going in. 1, 2, 3, there we go. And once you put the Parmesan in, you put the courgette.
And the reason I've peeled the courgette, you don't have to at all, you could leave the skin on the courgette, but we want to make it looking as authentic as possible as a pizza base. So if you've got little flecks of dark green in it, it doesn't look so much like the pizza dough, so we like to peel it so that you keep it nice and pale. But up to you, really.
Also, you need 2 eggs, 2 medium eggs. You put them in and you mix it all together, and it will become like a paste, which then we shall put it in a tray and goes into the oven. There you go. 2 eggs, 1 egg, and then the other egg. And you mix all this together, and it'll become like a dough. So you're making a dough, essentially you're making a dough. Yes, I said, yeah. So there you go, make the dough. Then you put into the tray with some oven paper, and you cook it at 200 degrees centigrade for about 10 minutes.
And this is enough for 2 pizza bases.
So you can see the consistency is not too loose, it's very good to spread, and it's also amazingly good for people like me, which low carb and not gluten whatsoever. So there you go.
So all you have to do is pat this out. And you often find that bases for pizza that are made with vegetables, they use cauliflower. But I've always thought that you can taste the cauliflower. And what I want to taste are the toppings, the lovely salami, there's tomato sauce, the oregano, or anchovies and mozzarella. I don't really want to taste cauliflower in a pizza, so that's why we've gone for courgette in this way.
So the base basically it hasn't got too much intensity, and whatever you put on top, it complements the pizza itself. And for the topping, obviously, you can choose whatever you like. That goes in the oven now, and it'll be just 10 minutes, and the base is cooked. We do 10 minutes because later you have to put the pizza back into the oven to be cooked like a proper pizza. So we shall explain in a second how the second part of the pizza is going to be. While the base is cooking in the oven, now we're going to do the toppings for the pizza. So we have tomato, which is a tomato passata. We have some oregano, a little bit of salt, and olive oil. So we will put some olive oil with the tomato passata, and then we put a bit of a pinch of oregano, and a pinch of salt goes into the tomato passata, and you mix it. Also for the toppings we have a mozzarella, which later shall tear with your hand. You tear it up and you put it on top. Just go like this, nice and easy, and you put it on top of the pizza.
We've got some salami, we've got some olives, it could be anchovies, toppings of your choice, could be prosciutto, rocket, whatever you fancy.
So now we're going to put the pizza base, once we've done the toppings, put the pizza back into the oven at 240 degrees, and all the toppings will melt, will be cooked fantastically, beautifully, amazingly well. So what else can you ask for? You know, an amazing pizza, which is tasty, beautiful, and it doesn't make you ill like me, having gluten intolerance and all that stuff. What a marvelous pizza you created, Katie. It's just genius, really. I think it's genius.
So the base is ready. Right. Now what we need to do is turn the oven up as hot as it'll go. Ours will go to about 240, but just as hot as it can. So we take it out of the tray here, and then we have to turn the tray upside down and put it back into the oven.
What does happen is as you turn the tray upside down, it creates heat at the bottom and at the top, and that forms like having a pizza oven. So it's really very interesting. It's a nice way of cooking the pizza, and it cooks very fast. So, and now we're gonna do the toppings in the pizza. First thing first, obviously, is the tomato, but not too much, you know, not too much tomato. A couple of spoons will be fine.
A lot of people think you need to cook tomato sauce and it has to have onions, etc. It doesn't. It's just very simple, a tin of tomatoes or passata and a few flavourings, that's it. Shall I put some salami on?
Then we put the mozzarella.
Oh, I like olives too on mine. I've just taken the stone out of a few of them as well.
So you can see there's a job for three, okay? Good kids, that's really brilliant.
Well, it's good with children because they can do their own.
Yeah, it's really nice actually. Okay, that goes back into the oven, and it takes about 5 minutes and that will be ready. So when the mozzarella is all melted, and you'll see, and then later, when it comes out, put some fresh basil on top, and it will be absolutely perfect pizza.
Pizza is ready. Right.
Fantastic. Wow. That's a real pizza, you see. Now, basil.
Yeah, we like to tear the basil on top. so that you get a mouthful of basil with the pizza. Yum. Okay.
There we go.
Hungry?
Have a nice pizza.
I will. So this was our recipe for today. Thanks for having us, Chrissy.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Thank you very much to the cow daisies there. So now it's time for our workout of the week with Natalia Kotowska.
Hey guys, it's me, your fitness instructor, Natalia Kotowska, and Keep Do It with Nat. Today I have for you exercises for our lower body. But before you exercise with us, please make sure you check with your specialist, with your doctor, what you can and cannot do. So stay with me. First one, we're gonna go into our long deep plank. Your bum should be more or less lower than your knee level. Your knee should not cross your toe line, so we're more or less in this position. We're gonna touch our ankle from the side. So, touch, 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 touch. We're gonna go for 20 each side. That means 40. That's a lot of work. You're gonna feel that burn in your thighs. Tap, tap, breathe, side to side. Shake it off. Whew, that's a hard one. That's your first one. Second one, same position. You're gonna go low. You're gonna walk forward, 2 step forward, 2 step back. Make sure your chest is wide open, shoulder blades together, roll your shoulders back. 1, 2, walk back. Walk forward, walk back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shake it off. Make sure you count up to 20. That's your second one. And the third one, the very last one. Shake it off, get yourself ready, open your toes. You're gonna pulse on 3. Down, single up. 1, 2, 3. Squeeze everything on top. Squeeze your glutes, your bum, belly button in, push your hips forward. And again, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. From the side. 1, 2, 3. Squeeze, push. 1, 2, 3. Squeeze, push. You want to do at least 10 of those. Whew, that was a lot. I'm sweating already. I hope you had fun, and I hope you exercise with me next time. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time, guys.
Thank you very much to Natalia there. So after the break, we have a healthy recipe straight from Hannah Richards' kitchen for stuffed pumpkins. We also see how birds of prey can be therapeutic, and I was sharing how I beat intrusive thoughts.
It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay.
I teach people to see depression as an enemy, not as a friend. I'm always going to be speaking about how you can actually kick depression out of your life, and I give tips in the book of what you can do, how you can start to see depression so that you can get rid of it for good.
Miss Chris, you've done a good job, and you didn't want to keep this help to yourself. You decided to share with everybody. You wrote a book which gives access to anyone who wants to improve.
She was able to get out of depression. Now she will be able with the book to get not only in UK but around the world.
Because it's time to reveal to the world the truth.
If you know anyone who is suffering from depression, then this book is highly recommended.
Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's time to go to Hannah Richards for a recipe for stuffed pumpkins.
Hello and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. My name's Hannah Richards, and today I'm going to stuff some pumpkins. So guys, I found these cute little pumpkins in the supermarket, and all I've done is I've chopped them in half, I've taken their seeds out, and then I've roasted them in the oven. That's all I've done. And so you want to make sure that when they come out of the oven, they'll probably only take about 20-30 minutes because they're so small, that they are just a little bit golden. Some bits will be a bit denser than others, and you can cut some of that flesh out, but as long as you've got some bottoms with some hollowness in them, you can stuff them. So we're going to use some feta cheese. So take about 1/3 of a block of feta cheese, roughly about that size, and just crumble it into a bowl. And we're going to use some garden herbs. And you'll probably find these herbs in your garden, but certainly in your supermarket. We're going to start with some basil. Just going to take a little bit off there. And all you're going to do is really loosely rip it apart into the smallest bits you can and add it into the feta. We're going to add a little bit of black pepper, and we're going to add some salt, and we're actually going to add a little bit of some turmeric. So just take the ground turmeric powder. You can get this in the supermarket or a grocer's, and you're just going to sprinkle it in there, maybe a teaspoon, something like that. And actually this time, I'm just going to mix it all around. So you can start seeing it sort of take a bit of color with the turmeric. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, and that's going to help me stick it all together for the pumpkin. Okay, so just take a little bit at a time and stuff each one as you go. So once you've got your little pumpkins stuffed, we're going to put them back into the grill, and this time you do have to keep an eye on them because you don't want anything burning, and they won't take very long at all. So they've got a nice little golden crisp colour on them. Watch those dinders as you plate them up. They're very hot. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And there is a perfect little pumpkin snack. It could be breakfast, it could be lunch, it could be dinner, it could be a midnight snack. I'm Hannah Richards, cooking for the Chrissy B Show. I hope you've enjoyed it, guys.
Thank you very much to Hannah there. So now it's time to see how bird therapy can make people happier.
Don't touch them.
Okay, right.
No, because this is a young one. You've missed the others.
Oh, have I? You've already put them back
I've got one more to get out.
Ankle, have you? Oh, right, okay.
No, there's 2 in there. If you want to see them.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it? Very.
The only thing you're not happy about is Jack. But I mean, if she runs Regina can answer it if he wants to stay down. Well, you can say.
Can anyone guess what this bird done last year? Last spring? Whenever I got toenails in baby chicks, I used to put them in with him, and he used to cuddle them. And a peculiar eagle. He's kindly, he's gentle. Watch this. There we are. I've trained each of them birds individual so they retain their temperaments, but at the same time are not dramatic. Therefore, people feel they're linked to the process. And it's the way I do it. That's all it is. It's a simple process. Don't complicate things, because if you complicate things, it won't work. Are we okay? That's okay, Margaret.
There we are, look.
Come on, kiddo.
Hello.
There we go. Oh, it's a beauty.
You lovely creature.
It's a delight. Delight. She's got to get used to seeing everyone. It's familiarization, and it's just that simple. The average age is about 24 to 30, but it's like anything. If we have dogs, some dogs get older than they're supposed to be. My mate's got a goshawk. It's only supposed to live till it's 12. It's 28 years old. I've got an eagle owl which is 60. And you see, when I was a kid, my grandfather would say to me, oh, well, I would say to him, what's this dip for? He'd say, oh, that's for putting your nose in. See, what he meant was, it's an interactive process, a bit like shaking your hand, a greeting. I'm just trying to help somebody who's less fortunate than myself. You don't do charity, or you don't do good work to get a medal, do you? You do it because you're doing it. I'm not looking for an MBA. If I wanted an MBA, I would have applied for one years ago. I'm not interested. You may do. Why do many people do charity work? Why do you give a quid to a homeless person? Because it's because you're trying to help that person, not because it makes you feel better. I'm going to let you hold this one in a minute. But what you must never do when you hold them is touch them. Dot, there's no need to be afraid. Dead easy. Frida's the brave one. Have you got cameras? Take the photograph. Isn't she just wonderful? And you see what Frida's doing? She's supporting her hand with the other hand. Look at her feet. She's got them spread. She knows I'm talking about her. No, sweetheart, not Doris. You mustn't touch her when she's on your hand. You ready? Yes. Now watch how she settles. You're not going to mess about with Tony. No, I'm talking to the bird. No, I'm not talking to you. No. Mustn't touch her. Remember, she's on your hand. That's okay. She's not going to hurt. Come on, chinky chop. She's not going to hurt you. That's it. I found that people have the right to see a bird of prey. They can't go to bird of prey centres in a care home or specialist unit. So what they can do is I bring the bird of prey centre to them in effect. But it's also a therapy. Put your hand up. Put your hand like that. Put that hand like that. There you go. That's how heavy she is. The reason she sits on my knee at home is because I need to have company. I'd rather be in the company of a bird of prey than I would with a person. My name's Colin Sutherland from Wings of Freedom, an organisation I founded to help people with dementia, special needs, kids with mental difficulties, learning difficulties, bird of prey rescue and owl rescue. It's not falconry, it's a technique I use. And why do people fail on doing it? Because there's more to it than meets the eye. The people who work within Wings of Freedom, you may not see some of them, but they don't do it to be seen. Because otherwise what you'd be doing is you'd be doing something only for your ego, wouldn't you? There's enough egos around today without any more, isn't there?
Thank you very much to all my guests and contributors on today's program. So today I would like to speak briefly about how to deal with intrusive thoughts, how I dealt with intrusive thoughts. So the first thing that you need to do and the first thing that I did when I started to get help was to see the thoughts as your enemy. So these thoughts can actually appear to be your friend, especially when they seem to be kind of looking out for you. So for example, if these thoughts are telling you to check that you lock the front door, that's reasonable. However, if then the thoughts keep coming back, you've just checked the front door, and then the thoughts tell you to go back and check again and again and again, then obviously these thoughts are irrational because you've just checked. So if you start to see these thoughts like an enemy that's actually toying with you and wanted to cause you distress, you're less likely to listen to them. The second thing that I did was to start to think logically. When I was going through OCD, one of the things I was doing was picking up other people's rubbish in the street, because the thoughts would tell me that if I didn't pick up the rubbish, then something would happen to a family member that I loved. But I had to start to think logically. I was doing that before, but then I started to think, what does picking up rubbish or not picking up rubbish have to do with my family's safety? It had absolutely nothing to do with it. One had nothing to do with the other. So I started to actually doubt the doubts. And as I kept doing this, then I was able to control those thoughts and get rid of them completely. So you have to think, is there really a connection between the thoughts that you're having and what the consequences that the thoughts are telling you is going to happen? Is there really a link? And the third thing I did was actually stand up to those thoughts. So even though I was afraid sometimes that, oh, if I don't do what the thoughts are telling me, something might happen, I actually started to refuse to do what the thoughts were telling me to do. And I started to fight against them instead. And lastly, the thing I did was to actually be stubborn. So the thoughts did still try to come back, but I had to be more persistent. I had to be more stubborn than those thoughts. And eventually all those behaviors stopped. Now, just to say, I didn't do this alone. I was actually getting help at the time. And if you want to know the kind of help that I was receiving, you can get in touch with me via my website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. And we've reached the end of today's program. But if you have a story that you would like to share, do email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can tweet or Instagram us @ChrissyBShow, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Until next time, bye-bye for now.